Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review. Now it's a really weird day out there. Sometimes it starts to rain, then it stops, then it's sunny, then it's grey, and it's kind of like the day that you just got to stay inside and do bugger all, do nothing. But I thought I'm going to share a book review that I finished this book some days ago, but I didn't get round to reviewing. My apologies for that. But I've done a couple of this author's reviews before, which I'll leave in the description box below, simply because I don't know how to put them up on the on the corner. I guess I could look them up because that's what I do. I like to learn. But let's just stick with the matter at hand. Right, what is this book about? This book was written by Irmgard Kern, who was a German writer. She was born in Berlin in 1905, and her books were actually burnt and banned by the Nazis because she wrote around those particular times. Now this book is the fourth book. Unfortunately, I don't have her third book. The first one was Gilgi, One of Us, which was published in 1931. And then it was followed soon after a continuation of that, which was The Artificial Silk Girl in 1932. And I've got reviews for both of those. But then I picked this one up in After Midnight, which was written in 1936 when she was actually outside of the country. She had escaped Germany. Germany at the time was just leading up to, I guess, Nazi Germany was just leading themselves into the war. It was the end of the Weimar Republic, and so she wrote a lot about what was happening in the streets, what was happening, not with politics per se. I guess as someone, she wrote from the point of view of a young woman of that time, what she was seeing in the streets around her and the people that she was with, and you could kind of feel the fear that she had, but also the lack of understanding as to what exactly is happening. Why are there people who don't trust each other? She didn't understand the politics of the time, but she knew that this was a really dangerous situation to be in. So what is this book about? The book is about a young 19-year-old young blonde girl who has a good friend, Gertie, and all these girls just want to do, as you do when you're 19 years old, is to go out, have fun, fall in love with different boys, and just really enjoy life. But life in 1936 Germany was very different, and they kind of understood, both of them, that you couldn't do certain things. Now, Gertie had a boyfriend who she loved a lot, but that boyfriend was half Jewish. And so even though Sanna Moda was the name of the young girl in this book, even though Sanna understood that, her friend had fallen in love, love is great, it's wonderful, she really did understand that something was amiss though when people around her, the cafes that they visited, really meant that they had to kind of have eyes everywhere in case anything had come to the police or to the soldiers about who they were hanging around with. So the story goes that Sanna had fallen in love with Franz, who was her cousin, and Franz's mother was really threatened by the relationship, in the sense that Franz's mother was getting money from her son, and she felt that Sanna was a threat. And so his mother then spoke to the police and basically said some disparaging remarks about what had Sanna said about Goering. And as a result, Sanna was interrogated by the police, and she was very frightened of the whole situation. And then she saw that she could not stay with them and that she had to escape. So she escaped to her brother's house, Elgin. Now, Elgin was a writer, and he was a famous writer in Germany. But at the time, though, he couldn't write what he usually would write, and so he was reduced to writing literature of the National Socialist Party or risk his life. And so we see someone who had a great life beforehand, and yet all of a sudden now they couldn't write. So Elgin was married to Liska, and Liska was, seems by all intents, a woman, a la-di-da woman who just wanted, oh, here we go, here's the rain, who just wanted to be, you know, I guess the person, to be a woman who just lay around and had intellectuals around her, had parties of different people rocking up to her place and discussions about usually men. Now she fell in love not with her husband, but with another guy, Heine, who was 40 years old, was also a journalist, and who pretty much paid no attention to her. And Liska had this particular view that she just wanted to have to Heine. She just wanted Heine to pay attention to her. And so young Sanna would be privy to all these, I guess, parties that were going on. And there's a point in this book, well, there's something that happens to Heine, and that you see that, my God, this society, these people are going through something that, God, you just wish no one would ever go through. They're in a society where they can't trust anyone. Their livelihoods were taken away by the government of the time. They were scared to do what they, I guess, were famous for, what they could do. They couldn't speak openly to people. They had to be mindful of who they hung out with. They had to be careful about the cafes that they went to, just in case anyone said anything to the police about it. They didn't know what was up from what was down. They didn't know left or right. They didn't know what was right, what was wrong. Everything was misconstrued. And so Sanna's character, even though she explained it in a very light and, you know, comical way, she struck me as someone being very astute and understanding. Sorry, did you hear the thunder? She struck me as someone being very astute about what was happening politically, and that she was just really not getting it. The people in here, as I was reading the book, strike me as people who are not stressed but traumatized. They're traumatized, they're completely distrustful, they are utterly scared about the situation that they're in, knowing that to some people they thought that Germany was going on the right track, that this was the right way for Germany, but for many of these people, they were completely disheartened, they were scared, they were anxious, and they were really fearful for their lives. And so we get to see a society, that's going to pretty much self-destruct. And yeah. Anyway, look, I enjoyed this book, and I am going to go out and find her third book, A Child of All Nations, which was written in 1936, and read that. I really loved her books. I'm not worried. I'm kicking myself that I hadn't read her books a lot earlier on. Her books actually show me, her books really show how young women of this time thought, and just present a completely different view from a female perspective of a very shocking time in history. So there you go, Irmgard Kern, After Midnight, highly recommended. Okay then, bye for now.